Farmers in Belgium originally created the beer style of saison as a way to beat the heat after a long day in the field. Now, it stands as a summertime favorite and wheat beer alternative. Anchor Brewing Company is one of the most recent breweries in the US to join in the making of this beer style with Anchor Saison. However, can it stand up against the summer heat and quench your thirst? Find out now on Two Dudes Reviews. Anchor Brewing Company first started bottling the beer in 2014. As a seasonal beer with a short February to April release, fans of the beer have just a few short months to enjoy the beer before Anchor moves on to its next seasonal. Marketed as a traditional Belgian saison with a California twist, what exactly does that mean? Well, there's only one way to find out.
Hey guys, how's it going? I got the Anchor Steam Saison right here. I've never had this before, so let's check it out. I rather enjoy saisons. I haven't had a lot of them from the States, actually. I actually don't see a whole lot. Apparently they are becoming a little more popular with breweries, so that's nice. I think a lot of breweries kind of feel like the wheat beer has been overdone, maybe. And so they're looking for something alternative. And so they're going with the saison for the summer beer. But alright, let's check out the smell. You get little apricot. There's something there that it's like a deep aroma. It's like a really deep floral. Deep floral is apricot. There's it smells like it's going to be a slightly thicker beer. If you can do that, if you can get that out of the really make the dog thirsty, because that's what she's doing right now. But it smells like it's going to be thick. It's got that it's got the kind of like the barley aroma to it, where it's approaching a barley wine. The alcohol content is higher on this. I think it's in the 7s. I don't see it on the bottle, but it's in the 7% range. It has some lemon zest in there, I think. The dog's really thirsty. I want to say like a mixture, maybe of of lemon and a little hint of orange zest. But yeah, I'm gonna go with the. It's got some barley in there, little deep apricot, heavier lower notes, and then some lemon zest. So I think it smells pretty interesting. So I'm gonna recommend it on the smell, and let's go for the taste now. There is some ginger in there, that's for sure. Ginger is the lemon zest. There's some hops in there for sure. It's not as sweet or as crisp, I think, as maybe a Belgian saison, the ones that I've had before. It doesn't have that. It's heavier. It's not as thick as I thought it was going to be on the tongue, but it doesn't have that the crisp aroma or flavor to it. They make this beer more as a late winter, early spring beer. I could see that. It's definitely not a summer kind of beer. I think they changed that a little bit. I would actually almost yeah, it's almost along the lines of a brown ale with some ginger and lemon mixed in. I think it'd be a pretty good beer with maybe some Chinese food or some sushi or something. It's got that nice. It is fresh, but not crisp, if that makes any sense. But yeah, you get some ginger, you get a little bit of lemony in there, but it's you get kind of a lighter nut brown ale in there too. It's almost, yeah, it's, I don't know. I mean, they call it a spring ale, so I guess it makes sense. It is, yeah, it's not a hot beer, so I should have read that line on the bottle first. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty good. It is, for a spring beer, because that's what I gotta take it as, they do call it a spring ale. I will recommend it as a springtime beer. It's not. It does have a little bit more life to it with the ginger and the lemon, which helps, I think, kind of like pump you up for spring. It's like, yes, it's getting warmer out. All right. It's not quite to the point where we're drinking wheats or shandies or whatever, or some crisp IPAs. So it's not quite to that level. It's kind of prepping you for what you will be drinking in a couple months. So I could dig that. So I'll recommend it for that purpose. Alright, next is value for price. I believe I got this for like $1.79. Of course, I'm just one state over from California. I think this is Anchor, I believe, is out of San Francisco. Yep, San Francisco. So it doesn't have to go that far. It might be a little more pricey where you're at. It is probably available throughout the United States. Anchor is a big enough company where you shouldn't have a problem. I mean, Anchor essentially created the microbrewing industry in the United States. So they have a good footprint really wherever you go. So honestly, for a crafty beer, $1.79 is a fantastic price for that. I mean, when you can get a six-pack for, I think a six-pack of this is like $7.99, $8.99. That's a pretty good price for what you would consider a microbrew in the States. So yeah, for value price, I'm gonna go for it. Now, drinkability. Drinkability, it's interesting because I know they slapped on the spring ale label, but it's still a saison. So it's like, I feel like the label's almost contradicting itself a little bit, because a saison, by nature, is something that you're going to drink to beat the heat. I mean, that's why it was created. It's more of an almost summertime beer with a little more complexity than a wheat beer. And so it's a saison, but it's a spring beer. So it's like, I don't know. Saison's generally not a spring beer, so it's an odd kind of right in the middle. I don't know if they were brewing it up and they're like, this tastes pretty good. It's not as crisp or as citrusy as what other saisons are going to be. So we'll just call it a spring beer instead. But kind of going off from there, for drinkability, I mean, it is. It's nice. I could probably drink one or two of these. It's definitely got, there's an Anchor characteristic in there for sure. If you've had other Anchor beers, if you set up right along the line and you drink this next to just the regular Anchor Steam or one of the other Anchor beers, you can totally tell it's made by the same place. It's just sharing some characteristics for sure. Drinkability, I'm going to give it a half out of 1. I'd like to give it a higher 1, and I know they do reference it as a spring beer, but it's still a saison, and I guess I was hoping for something a little more crisp, a little more summertime ready, because this isn't something that I beat the heat with. So I'm going to give it a half. Now, so distinction. That's how distinct is it from the other kinds? It's odd because it's a saison, but it's not. and it's a springtime beer, but it's not. I would actually categorize it more along the lines of a spring ale than a saison. It has, a little bit of the floral characteristics that you're gonna find in a saison, but it's more of a spring beer than anything else. So you almost have to determine which category you're gonna put it in. So I guess because it is kind of split down the middle, I guess that kind of makes it distinct from your other saisons and your other spring beers. I like this as a spring beer, but I don't like it as much as a saison, if that makes sense. So I mean, distinction. All right, yeah, I'll recommend it for distinct, just because it is. I don't know if it's just. I don't want to say it's confused between the two styles, but it's distinct because it's trying to merge the two. I'll go with that. So all right, last category is what I buy again, and I mean, if I wanted a spring beer, I guess I'd go with this. I guess it's better than a lot of the other spring beers, but me personally, I don't just go and seek out spring beers. It's of course, when I lived in Michigan, you pretty much didn't have spring. It just kind of snowed all the time and then got into summer, and so you kind of skipped over that thing. Of course, now I live in Arizona, and there's still pretty much no spring. It's kind of like 50s and then 1,000 degrees. It's not a big. So I don't generally go for spring beers. Maybe other places you go for you like a spring beer, and that's fine. If you like spring beers that still has some of the nuttier flavors as your winter beers, but a little more crisp, a little more fresh, definitely go for this. I like the inclusion, the subtle hints of the ginger and the lemon. I think it goes really nice together. But me personally, I don't drink spring beers really ever. It's just I never really had the point. I feel like it's kind of just cutting in the middle of my stouts, my porters, my heavier winter beers, and then my summer beers. I feel like it's kind of, for me, it's lost in the middle of whatever. So, what about it again? I'm going to give it a half because it's not bad. I would buy it, but I don't really drink the kind. I don't drink the spring. And I do wish there's more saison than spring, but it's not. It's the other way around. So I'm going to give it a half for that. So, that's what it is with the Anchor Saison. That's my feeling on it. I kind of wish there's more saison and less spring, but to each their own, I guess. If you've had it before, I'd love to know what you think about it. Maybe you think I'm totally wrong. Maybe you dig the more spring side than the saison side. Let me know in the comments. I'd love to talk about it with somebody else that's had it. And if you like the video, please like it. Please subscribe. We've got all sorts of other goodies coming up, and that we already have up. And we got a podcast, 2 Dudes in a Six Pack. Check that out. That's pretty much wherever you can find your podcast. That's where we're at. So, yeah, that's about it. So for me and for Chris, the other dude, talk to you later.